right, listen up.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to what might become the 440th VFW podcast. We don't know yet. We're still kicking things around. We're a very, very new virtual fighter wing. But what we thought we'd do here is take a chance to get into your ears and just introduce ourselves. My name is Tyrant, and with me tonight are the other two founders. We have Zeus. Say hi, Zeus.
Hi, Zeus.
And Derk.
Good evening.
Hey, and as you can tell, Zeus is kind of a smartass, so just bear with us on that one. No, I'm kidding. He's a great guy.
One of my many talents.
Yes, one of his many talents.
Humility.
So the reason that we thought we would get together is that we are a brand new virtual fighter wing flying Falcon BMS. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, and we just thought it would be a really great way to get out here and talk to people, to tell you about ourselves. Because we're interested in people joining us. We want to find people that have sort of the same goals around Falcon BMS as we do, to come and have some fun with us. So we thought, hey, one good way to do that might be just to have a conversation between the three of us, the founders, and talk a little bit about kind of how we see the sim and what how we like to enjoy it, and in the hopes that other people that have a similar goals will give us a call and say, hey, we that sounds like fun, let's do that too. And I think also an opportunity for people that maybe aren't in any VFW or have never been in a VFW, rather virtual fighter wing, that is, to find out a little bit about what it's about. So I think that's enough blah 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 from Tyrant. What I might do now is maybe throw it over to Zeus. He's our commanding officer, if you will. He's kind of got the whole thing started for us here, and I thought maybe Zeus, you could talk just briefly about where the 440th is coming from, sort of philosophically, if you will. That's kind of a deep word, but anyway, I think you know what I mean, and I'll just throw it your way.
Sure. Well, welcome everyone. As Tyrant said, we are a relatively new virtual flying wing. We have a deep history, though, coming from the roots of the first VFW. Certainly one of the premier VFWs within the BMS community. Unfortunately, they've decided to move on to the DCS world, and we wish them all the very best. But there were a strong contingent of first VFW flyers that really wanted to stay in the BMS world. After all, we believe that BMS is probably one of the premier aircraft simulations in the world, and certainly one of the most accurate F-16 simulations that's out there. And certainly from my perspective, I have just this deep passion about the F-16. I've always enjoyed that aircraft. I've been in the Falcon world since the original Falcon on the IBM PC, so that gives you an idea of how long I've been around. But been with it through all its various flavors. And it wasn't until the introduction of BMS, I believe it was 432, that I caught on to the multiplayer environment. And as much fun as I've had over the years just flying Falcon in its various flavors, it took on a whole new meaning when I joined the BMS community and found that there were numerous individuals out there that enjoyed it as much as I did and shared that same passion. So this is my opportunity to help continue that within the community and give a little bit back. And really happy to have Tyrant and Derk here with me.
Yeah, and I got to say, I'm with you, Zeus. I think all of us have found that multiplayer is a huge part of our personal experience with BMS. I still enjoy going up once in a while and flying single player, do all sorts of practice and whatever that way, but my focus these days is certainly multiplayer. And I think that's really kind of the key to for those that aren't familiar, the whole virtual fighter wing or virtual flying wing, whatever VFW stands for, is the key. The key there is the multiplayer thing. It really does add a huge dimension. But there's different ways to do that.
Absolutely.
Right? Like people are always looking. I think one of the things that comes up a lot is, when we would have discussions about how we wanted to do things, it always comes down to what are you looking for, right? What are you looking for out of this hobby? And so, I think we all are looking for the same thing, and a big part of that is multiplayer. But I think it goes a little bit beyond that. We have a shared vision around kind of what the balance between, and this isn't exactly the right terminology, but sort of fun and realism is kind of the axis I'm thinking. I wonder if you guys can maybe state that better than I'm doing a job of right now.
Well, I think absolutely that's a big part of it, and it's finding that balance of wanting to fly it like you do in the real world, but living within the constraints of BMS, and knowing that for at least most of us, this truly is just a hobby. Occasionally, we do have the wing member that's actually either a retired or active F-16 pilot, which is a phenomenal experience to be able to fly with those individuals and learn from their experiences, obviously those that they can share. But even they look at it as kind of a way to relax and not necessarily have to live by some of the real world constraints that are out there. So we do try to keep it fun, but we also are very focused on flying for success. And it's not about going out and doing individual kill counts. I mean, you'll rarely find us doing serious one-on-one dog fighting brackets and things like that. Once in a while for fun and for practice, but it's really about that group experience and having that camaraderie that you get when you're flying together and working together to solve a problem or to accomplish a goal.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead. Oh, yeah, Derk, please.
Yeah, for me, that's the main part with the multiplayer, is to be able to take something that you've taught yourself, something that's an advanced skill, put it together with someone else, and make it work together. For me, it's one of those outlets where I've always stood on the ground. I've watched the fast jets scream overhead, or even the airliners fly overhead, and it's always been want a taste of it or want to be part of it. This sim, to me, is about as close as you can get to being able to fulfill any of that. But when you put in the fighter role on top of that, where you actually have a goal, flight sim's fun at a certain level where you got to get through weather, get from airport to airport. But we do the same thing in the Falcon BMS. But on top of that, we have to protect an area, or we have to engage an area, and it just adds a whole higher layer on the simulator on top of that.
Totally. And I think you guys, it's funny, the thing I was poorly saying before, you really highlighted it for me, which is, I said, hey, what are we about? And you started talking about operations, because that is what we're about, about actually going into the sim and performing missions. And the point that I was alluding to earlier was that for us, that means less of an emphasis on anything sort of outside the sim. So here we are, we're the founders, I mentioned that Zeus is our commanding officer, and we do take certain administrative responsibilities. But I think it's important for people that are sort of wondering if the VFW, if the 440th is the type of place where we have a lot of emphasis on ranks or anything like that. We really don't. I think that's important to point out, right? Yep. And I think for me that was actually super important when I was looking around for a wing, because I'd done a little bit of multiplayer, knew I really liked it, but I really wanted to go to the next level. But I wanted to focus. I wanted the focus to be on the flying, and I'm certainly happy to take to be a wingman or to have sort of in sim leadership going on. That I think is super important. But for me, it's less important that carry through into the community, which is much more egalitarian, more sort of friends oriented. Again, some of us do take on certain responsibilities, but it's not a rank thing, if I've summed that up correctly.
It's an interesting point that you make there too. You touched on the willingness to be a wingman and do things like that, and that kind of, I think, really leads into some of the other things that we find important at the 440th, and that's the our willingness and openness to essentially all pilots. We want to enjoy this simulation, this hobby with others. You don't have to be an expert and someone that has logged thousands of hours in this simulation to be a part of the wing. It's certainly open to even the newest members. We'd like you to come to us with at least a little bit of experience with the simulation, be able to go through some of the built-in training flights on your own, things of that nature. And BMS is I guess I would say definitely a study sim. There's a lot of reading because it is a very accurate simulation of the aircraft. There are a lot of systems you need to know, but you don't need to know them all to come fly with us. We're happy to help others learn. And matter of fact, that's one of the things that we enjoy most about the sim is being able to show others how things work and let them experience that same kind of passion that we have about the aircraft, about the simulation. And around that area, we've built up a huge training environment. I shouldn't say huge. We have definitely a thorough course that goes through and takes even the most novice pilots through from just being able to ramp start the jet and move it around to actually engaging with some of the more sophisticated weapons on board the aircraft.
Yeah,
so
go ahead, Derk. No, I was hoping actually that you'll talk a bit about that program because I know, Anyway, sorry, just go ahead.
I was going to touch on that. There's kind of a balance of equality between all of us that are in it. We're still in a community together. He had mentioned that we have flown with real F-16 pilots. They have a wealth of information. We've flown with sim pilots that have been doing it for years and years. They have a lot of information also. But at the end of the day, we're all still the same guy that wants to sit down in front of our PC. We want to be entertained and have a lot of fun together and enjoy the community together, no matter what the skill level we are. And we are developing a really good training program so that we can expand it to bring in guys that might be a little intimidated on this is a pretty big study sim. How do I get to a certain level? And it takes somebody to mentor or somebody to instruct in order to help get to a certain level on it. But in the end of the day, we're all equal. We're just the same guy that's sitting out there looking at different sims or flying different even space games and thinking, I should give this thing a try. We're pretty much all the same. We just have a common interest that drives us together.
Yeah.
I would say for those of you that are sitting out there that haven't joined a virtual flying wing or fighter wing, and you're just sitting there wondering, is it for you? Is it what's it like? Believe me, I was in that same place 4 or 5 years ago before I joined the BMS community and joined the first VFW as my first fighter wing. Come on in. There's a lot of fun to be had. There's a lot of different wings. There's certainly one out there for you, no matter what your style is. If you enjoy doing the type of flying that we do here, which is focused on cooperative flying, that working together on planning and executing a mission and having a little fun, taking a little jab at each other every now and then, but also still trying to do things in a semi-serious way, then this is definitely a place you should check out. I think there's an awful lot you can learn. We're happy to teach, and we hope that we can learn things from you as well. We always do whenever we bring somebody new on board. So definitely stop on by and check us out, and happy to go up on flights and bring people in, even if they just want to swing by and check us out for kind of an open house flight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Zeus, I bet Tyrant and I are in the exact same place. We sat there thinking, I wonder if we should join or not, and then finally made that decision to do and found the help and the support in the community there.
Yeah, I can't say enough about the I think it's really worth mentioning the training program that we alluded to. We call it IQT, Initial Qualification Training. That was, I've had some really great flights with you guys, but that process was quite possibly the highlight of my entire BMS experience. And that's not to say the stuff that came afterwards wasn't great, but it really is an amazing program. And I can say that because unlike Derk and Zeus, I'm not an instructor pilot, so I'm not tooting my own horn there. Zeus was actually my instructor pilot a few years ago, and the program, which we've tweaked and added to and in our humble opinion improved, is really, really good. I mean, we're talking about just a very well-structured, like hands-on, one-on-one, super friendly. I mean, I remember telling my wife over and over again, man, that Zeus guy is really nice. I made this mistake, but he was like right there to help me figure it out. And it was a really, really great experience, and I think I guess I'm just echoing what you guys have said, which is, if you're not sure, come on by. We don't bite. We'd be happy to go up with you, and I think if you get a little taste of it, of what there is to offer, especially if you haven't flown with a group before who have the sort of structured educational bent on learning and improving that we do, I think you'll find it incredibly valuable.
Yeah, I think on that training philosophy that we have is it's not like pass or fail, you don't cut it, get out. I think we're all in this community that we want to thrive and grow and build, and in order to do that, the training program is a great source to be able to bring someone in and bring them up to a certain proficiency level to be able to do the same type of missions and stuff that we're doing. But until they get that level, we're gonna help bring them along. That's a big thing with the training course and the stages that it has on it. And anybody that goes through it, the experience that I've seen from them is that finishing it, getting all the way through, it's a sense of accomplishment. You've really accomplished a pretty good sized goal, just like a private pilot gets his private pilot's license after so many flights, that kind of a thing. So it's a pretty nice program with a good sense of accomplishment afterwards.
Yeah, I think that's an important point to stress there. The fact that this is not hey, you have to come in, you're going to go up on these check rides, and if you don't get it right, you're out the door. For any of you that are struggling with the BMS simulation, again, it's definitely a study sim, and you've really got to put time and effort in. But sometimes just reading those manuals doesn't work for people. You need to be more hands-on. Everybody learns a different way, and we're more than happy to spend the time with people. And so I'll definitely, whether it's joining the 440th or another VFW, I encourage everyone to get out there and join online, get involved in an online community, find the one that works for you, that has the right style for you, and you'll find that you pick up things much, much faster. You become a better pilot, or virtual pilot, and you make some great bonds along the way, and end up creating a lot of new friendships that will stick with you for years. It certainly has for me, and I definitely enjoy the time I've spent with everybody here, and this has been a lot of fun. Hope to do it for many more years.
Oh, and it's not like we're done learning either. Zeus and I, as IPs, we're still learning off of each other almost daily every time we fly.
Yeah, same here. And I mean, Zeus, what does your logbook stand at?
I don't know. I've started it over several times. Pretty much every time a new major release of BMS comes out, I've started over. I think at one point I know I was over 12 or 1,500 hours on one of the logbooks. That at that point you stop counting hours and you start hiding them from your wives or significant others. So
yeah,
you don't like to talk about that much time,
right? No, and I mean, I guess my only point was that I just love that attitude of I've got X 100 or 1,000 hours in, but I'm still learning things, and we still expect to learn things from each other. I think it's just such a great community that way. All right. Well, that's about 20 minutes worth. I feel like we've done a good job of explaining to people kind of where we're coming from. This was a ton of fun. The time flashed by. So I think we will probably do another one of these at some point. No promises just yet, but certainly had a good time. And I think there's I can think off the top of my head of 20 more topics we could go into, everything from mission building to we could talk about weather for 20 minutes in BMS, right?
Absolutely.
But maybe what we'll do is we will go ahead and let people know how they can find us, and then we will get out of their ears and leave them wanting a little bit more, hopefully. So, Derk, why don't you tell people where they can find us?
Well, the website is www.440thvfw.com. So that's like the 440th Virtual Fighter Wing. And just pop in, and if you register at the site, you'll have access to the PM system, and then you can just send a PM to somebody, and there's information on the links at the website that will direct you on how to make contact. Pretty easy, and it's free.
Yeah, and I'm sure Zeus would echo this. In fact, I know he would. Just feel free to PM any of us, Derk, Tyrant, Zeus, or even pop in on the forums and just post a message, say, hey, I'd like to fly with you guys sometime. How can we make that happen? And we will be more than happy to do that.
Absolutely.
Sounds great.
Cool.
Look forward to seeing all of you.
Absolutely. Well, thanks a lot, guys. We'll go ahead and close it down there. This has been, tentatively episode 0 of the 440th podcast. Thanks for listening.